Hey, tonight we're diving into the belly of a steel legend, the kind that gleams on postcards and sinks in history books. You probably won't survive this night, but for now, you're just waking up, cold, confused, below deck, somewhere deep in the bowels of the RMS Titanic. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what time is it where you are? I like knowing who's wandering the ship with me. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes to the scent of rusted iron, boiled potatoes, and the sort of damp wool that smells faintly like a sheep that lost a bet. The bunk above you creaks with every breath the person takes, their snore syncopated with the rhythm of the ship's engines. Somewhere across the room someone coughs, a low sticky sound, and a child whimpers in their sleep. It's dark, not pitch black. There's a gas lamp down the corridor, still glowing weakly, but just dark enough that when your foot finds the cold floor, it feels like stepping onto a regret. The planks are slick from condensation. Your socks, still wet from yesterday, or was it 2 days ago? You're in third class, which is a poetic way of saying you exist, but not enough to deserve windows. The walls are painted steel, the ceiling just high enough to avoid bruises if you're careful, and your mattress is a friendly sack of hay wrapped in disappointment. The blanket tries its best, bless it, but it's mostly wool, itch and dreams of warmth. Outside your bunk you hear the ship breathing, those great underwater sounding groans of iron flexing under pressure. It's oddly soothing, almost like sleeping in a mechanical whale, or maybe a prison that thinks it's a hotel. You swing your legs over and try not to land on the neighbour's boots. Too late. Someone grumbles in Gaelic. You murmur something that sounds apologetic and blink your way toward the washroom, hoping the water isn't frozen again this morning. Spoiler, it is. Third class on the Titanic is a rabbit warren of narrow corridors, squeaky stairwells, an air that smells like 10 countries, trying to cook cabbage at the same time. You pass bunk rooms packed with families, lone travellers, couples pretending not to be married. The languages blur, Swedish, Italian, Irish, Polish. There's laughter, there's muttering. There's a baby somewhere who's already over this voyage. As you shuffle forward, a steward passes by. He's got the white-capped uniform, the polished shoes, and that special look in his eyes. Not paid enough for this. He doesn't say anything, just nods. You nod back. Apparently, this is how we communicate now. The washroom door is a little too eager to creak, like it wants to announce you. Inside, 3 porcelain sinks, one of which works. The other 2 are more decorative suggestions. The mirror is tarnished, and the soap is a strange grey shape that looks like it's been gnawed by time itself. You splash your face. It's like waking up via iceberg. Fitting. Someone next to you mutters something about the weather. Cold wind last night. Sea misted over this morning. You nod again. That seems to be the custom. You dry your face on your sleeve. Everyone else seems to do the same. By the time you're dressed, shirt, suspenders, scratchy wool sweater that smells faintly of goat, you're ready for breakfast. Which is to say, ready to stand in a line for 30 minutes to get lukewarm tea, maybe bread, and the thrilling mystery of porridge or sadness. Still your stomach growls. The body's simple that way. As you walk, the ship rocks gently. It's subtle, not unpleasant, like a slow heartbeat. You can feel it in your knees, in the floorboards, in the walls. There's something oddly comforting about a machine. This massive moving with such grace. Titanic doesn't creak like a wooden ship. It hums, low and deep, as if it's whispering old secrets to the ocean. By the time you reach the galley queue, the air is thick with the scent of boiled oats and disappointment. A toddler cries. A man coughs into his hand and then offers you a seat at the table. You thank him. He has kind eyes and no teeth. Both seem historically accurate. You sit. Steam curls off chipped tin mugs. Someone's passing down chunks of bread, like it's sacred. You chew slowly. The bread's tough, but it's real. It fills you. The tea is bitter, possibly boiled with a nail, but it's hot. And on this ship, below decks, hot anything feels like a gift. You glance up toward the ceiling. Somewhere above you, first-class passengers are waking up to fine linens and servants with silver trays. Their eggs are gently scrambled. Yours taste like warm sand. Still, you're here. That matters more than you know. The morning has a mood, and that mood is damp. Not rainy, not wet, just soaked in the bones damp. Like the ship was exhaled from the ocean, rather than built on top of it. Your boots squelch faintly with every step as you make your way back down the corridor, passing clumps of third-class passengers who are either still waking up or already halfway into retelling their life stories to strangers. A girl brushes her hair with a fork. Two boys bicker over something in a language you don't speak. Someone's boiling socks in a tin can over a hot pipe, unclear if it's for cleanliness or lunch. You're beginning to understand that third class is its own entire ecosystem. Part hostel, part immigration line, part floating livestock car, only with more coughing. The corridor walls are sweating. Pipes overhead drip with condensation that occasionally taps a rhythmic pattern onto your head, as if the ship itself is trying to communicate in Morse code. You duck as someone swings open a cabin door with just enough enthusiasm to almost rearrange your jaw. Inside their room, if you can call it that, 8 people share 4 bunks. Blankets hang from ropes to create privacy. The air smells like wet wool, onion bread, and dreams deferred. You don't linger. By now, the queue for the washroom is curling into the stairwell again. You consider waiting. You do not wait. One man ahead of you holds a towel with the determination of someone who has fought 2 wars and refuses to surrender this spot in line. Fair. Instead, you take the path of least resistance, the laundry closet that kind of has a basin in it if you're flexible and shameless route. Not that shame survives long in steerage. You find a narrow side room with peeling paint and a lonely water pipe jutting from the wall like it lost its plumbing friends decades ago. You cup your hands under the faucet and splash your face again, second time this morning, because the first didn't quite remove the feeling of I slept next to 7 strangers and a cat that may not belong to anyone. Someone shuffles in behind you. A broad-shouldered woman holding a bar of soap the colour of storm clouds, and a child with a face like a permanent question mark. The woman nods. You nod. The child sneezes so hard their hat flies off. Down the hallway, someone starts singing in Norwegian, a slow, steady lullaby that shouldn't work in this chaos, but somehow does. The sound wraps around the steel walls like fabric. Maybe that's what this ship really runs on. Steam, coal, and soft songs from foreign tongues. You try brushing your clothes off, though there's not much point. Your sweater still smells like the man who slept 3 feet from you. Your trousers are developing a new crease that screams, I was folded in fear. And your shoes? Let's not talk about the shoes. You decide to go topside, or rather, toward the direction of outside. You haven't seen daylight since yesterday's brief, glorious hour when third-class passengers were allowed to breathe above sea level. The ship's labyrinthine layout wasn't designed for ease. It was designed to keep you in your place. Corridors twist, stairs creak, and the moment you think you've found a shortcut, a steward appears like a well-dressed ghost and says, passengers of your class should remain on this deck, which is Titanic speak for. No. Still you try your luck. You pass a man holding a tin teacup like it's a family heirloom. 2 young women are whispering by a stairwell. giggling between glances at a steward. One of them wears lipstick that looks freshly applied, or possibly stolen from someone in second class. You respect the hustle. Someone else is sketching on a notepad. Rough hands, fine lines. The drawing shows the ship's hull, but with something strange added. Little circles along the bottom. Rivets, maybe, or air holes, or imagination. You nod at him. He doesn't look up. You reach a wider hallway, this one tiled, lit by electric bulbs that flicker just enough to make you feel like the ship is thinking about something it doesn't want to share. 2 doors ahead, both marked crew only. Someone emerges athwart into a steward with tight posture and the eyes of a man who's memorised every excuse not to answer a question. He sees you. You see him. You smile because what else can you do? He says nothing. Walks on. The door behind him doesn't quite click shut. For a heartbeat you stand there. Then you open it and step through. It's a service passage. Narrower, sharper angles. The kind of corridor where secrets go to smoke a cigarette. You move quickly, hoping not to be noticed. The air here feels different. Cleaner, colder. As if it belongs to someone wealthier. You emerge beside a second-class stairwell, polished wood railings, carpeting that doesn't have patches, the smell of soap, and above all, silence. Not real silence, but filtered silence. The kind where everything unpleasant has been professionally muffled. You spot 2 stewards talking in hushed tones near the lift. Their backs are straight, but their voices are cracked. You can't catch all the words, but one phrase reaches you. Clipped, low, sharp. Boiler 6 is, just stay calm, don't say anything yet. Boiler 6. You don't know what that means, but the way he says it, you feel it in your ribs. One steward notices you. His face freezes, his mouth opens to speak, but before he can, the other one turns and firmly pulls the door shut between you and their conversation. You are no longer welcome here. And suddenly you're very aware of the weight of water pressing on the other side of these metal walls. You walk away from that door like it's radiating heat, though the hallway remains cold, metal cold, cellar cold, the kind of chill that reminds you this ship was forged, not born. Your footsteps echo a bit too sharply on the tiled floor. You're back in a third-class corridor before anyone notices, and suddenly everything feels louder. Boots scuffing wood, children laughing, a fiddle tuning up somewhere in the distance. It's like stepping from a church into a market, and yet something lingers. You keep hearing that voice. Boiler 6 is just stay calm. It repeats in your head, looping between your ears like a whisper you can't shake. The phrase means nothing and everything. You don't know where Boiler 6 is. You don't even know how many boilers there are. But you do know how people sound when they're pretending not to panic. Still, there's bread to eat and tea to steal, and avoiding suspicion starts with looking like everyone else. So you smile at a passing steward, give a tired wave to a baby gnawing aggressively on a clothespin, and settle into the nearest long table in the mess. The benches here are packed. You end up between a boy with hair like straw and a woman humming quietly as she knits with a ball of yarn the colour of old lemons. Across from you is a family of 6 eating what appears to be boiled flour. You ask if it's dumplings. The mother replies, "It's hope," then winks. Someone down the table is telling a story in Gaelic, wildly gesturing with a spoon. You don't understand a word, but the rhythm is hypnotic. He's clearly the funny one. The others are laughing like they've all survived something already. You envy that comfort. The tea today is slightly less bitter. Either they used fewer nails, or your tongue has simply given up complaining. The bread, still dense, still shaped like it was poured from a bucket, but warm, which matters. A young man sits next to you and pulls out a harmonica. Just places it on the table. Doesn't play it. Doesn't say anything. Just sets it there like a challenge. People notice. The fiddle somewhere in the corner starts to play a reel. Irish, you think? The harmonica guy glances around, then joins in. Soft at first, then louder, until toes are tapping and hands are clapping, and the entire mess room has transformed into a pub that forgot to bring the ale. A little girl dances barefoot between benches, her dress swirling, like the Atlantic itself got bored and decided to be beautiful for a moment. Someone throws down a spoon in rhythm. Another slaps the table. You, despite everything, smile, and maybe for a moment, the hum of Boiler 6 is replaced by music, and that creeping dread is soothed by stomping feet and laughter, too loud for grief. But moments are temporary. The music slows. The fiddler switches to a lullaby. Someone yawns. Someone else coughs, a deep one. It's always that kind. Third-class lungs don't last long against damp steel. As the meal winds down, you chat with a man named Aino. Finnish, you think. He speaks quietly and holds his teacup with both hands, like it's made of gold. His fingers are cracked. One nail is black. He tells you he was a carpenter once, says he built a house that no one ever lived in. Then stares into his cup for a full minute, like it might contain an answer to something. He has a small leather bag next to him, worn, scarred. You ask what's inside. He pulls out a prayer book. The cover is half peeled and one corner is scorched. You don't ask why. Next, a pocket watch. Doesn't tick. It stopped when I left home, Siriksoi, he says. I like it that way. You nod, unsure what else to do. Then quietly he says, You feel it too? You glance around. Feel what? The heaviness, he murmurs, underneath, in the steel. You stare at him, but he doesn't elaborate. Just sips his tea like that's a normal thing to say. As if he's not just casually dropped an entire unease buffet onto your table. Then the harmonica man coughs hard, 3 times, spits into a rag. The music does not restart. Later, you're back in the corridor, and the fiddle tune drifts through the walls, like a ghost looking for a better party. A group of teenagers run past you, laughing, dragging one boy in a sack like it's a sleigh. He yells something about going to America backwards. You silently hope they all make it there forwards. You spot a notice pinned crookedly to the wall. Deck promenade for 3rd class. 1 p.m, 2:30 p.m, weather permitting. The words weather permitting do a lot of heavy lifting, considering the only thing Titanic hasn't tried yet is snow, but it's a chance to breathe sea air, to look at something that isn't metal. You decide you'll go. You don't know it yet, but you're going to see something up there that changes everything. Not the sky, not the ocean, a person and a look. The kind of look people give when they've heard something and aren't allowed to repeat it. You make it topside just before the steward starts herding people back down, like unruly pigeons. The 3rd class promenade deck is small, penned in by metal railings and stiff glances from passing crew, but the air is different here. Clean, salty, real. You inhale deeply and it hits you, cold Atlantic wind with just a dash of coal smoke, and ocean myths. The kind of air that makes you forget how loud the ship is, how small your bunk feels, how your boots haven't dried in 3 days. It's all sky and steel and sea, an endless sweep of grey-blue water curling under white caps, the ship's wake trailing behind, like a torn wedding veil. Somewhere in the distance, seagulls try to make friends with the wrong hemisphere. A few children chase each other down the length of the rail, their laughter flapping in the wind like little flags of joy. A man leans against the edge smoking a hand-rolled cigarette, flicking the ashes straight into the Atlantic like he's trying to offend the ocean personally. You pace slowly. Just enough space to stretch your legs, but not enough to get anywhere. You peek over at the higher decks, 2nd class, then 1st, stacked above like social ladders no one's letting you climb. The people up there sip drinks from crystal, wrapped in furs and tailored coats. Down here, Someone is using their coat as a picnic blanket. It's probably also their bed. As you walk past the edge of the promenade, you spot a side door, one of the maintenance ones the crew uses. It's cracked open, just barely, enough to feel like an invitation. A steward exits, sharply dressed, carrying a folded towel and a clipboard, like he's starring in a very tense play no one rehearsed properly. He doesn't see you at first. You pause, then you hear it. Inside past the door, low voices, urgent, quick. They locked the catwalk already? Captain says it's fine. No, I saw the list. Boiler 6 was breached. Shut up. Shut up. You want to get transferred to the Californian? Footsteps. Laughter, forced. Then silence. You step back as another steward brushes past and the door closes. Just like that, the moment's gone. You look around. No one else noticed. The children are still laughing. A woman is hanging socks on the rail to dry. The sea hasn't changed colour, but something has. You wander the deck until the last steward waves a pocket watch and starts ushering everyone back down. The spell breaks. People grumble. One man tries to argue for 5 more minutes like it's bedtime, but there's no warmth in the reply. Back below, the air tightens again, thick with stew and damp clothing, and now something else. Suspicion. You can feel it prickling along the walls, humming just under the floorboards. A door slams somewhere down the hall. In the stairwell, you pause. You turn and follow the way you're not supposed to go. Back to the crew corridor you slipped into earlier, the one with the polish, the filtered air, the lies. This time, you move quieter, slower, and when you reach the stairwell, you see them. 4 men, crew, 1 in white, officer probably, 3 others with clipboards, tools or towels. The universal accessories of pretending everything is fine. They're talking in low voices, again. You're sure the door held? It held for now. What's the waterline? Decky, but it's still sealed. And if it breaches another bulkhead? No answer. Then someone says, "We keep calm. No announcements. Steerage doesn't need to panic." Your stomach knots. Steerage, that's you. You step back too fast. Your boot taps the metal. Silence. One of the men turns toward the sound. His eyes scan the hallway. You press yourself behind a bulkhead like a coward in a costume closet. Footsteps, slow, measured. Then, nothing. He turns back. You breathe again. Barely. Back in the third-class corridor, nothing has changed, but everything has. You spot a young woman sitting against the wall with a bundled blanket in her lap. The baby's face peeks out, red-cheeked, peaceful. She's staring at nothing. You sit nearby. You don't speak, neither does she. But after a minute she says quietly, "You felt it too, didn't you?" You glance at her. "The shaking?" She nods. 2 hours ago. Just a tremor, like the floor hiccuped. "Maybe something in the engine?" She snorts, soft and humourless. "Yeah, maybe." You both fall silent. Then she says, barely a whisper, "I think they're hiding something." You want to tell her she's wrong, that everything's fine, that she should sleep. But you're not a liar. Not yet. Later that afternoon, you find yourself in one of the quieter corners of steerage, though quiet here is relative. The noise just softens. It becomes murmurs, metal creaks, the occasional sharp clang of a dropped spoon, or the distant ring of a steward's boot heel disappearing down a corridor you're not allowed to follow. You sit on a bench that's bolted to the wall, next to a man who seems held together by nothing but his coat and a tired kind of stubbornness. He nods once, doesn't speak. He's cradling something on his lap, what looks like a violin case. The outside is cracked, worn, held shut with twine. You assume it's just another item of sentimental baggage. Like the letters stuffed in your pocket. Like the folded prayer book someone else offered you earlier today. Like it was a gift or a shield. But then the man opens the case. Inside is a violin, split along its back, one string missing entirely, the bow frayed to near ruin. It looks less like an instrument and more like a relic pulled from a battlefield. He runs a hand gently along its edge and says, in heavily accented English, "She was beautiful once. You ask if he plays." He smiles but doesn't answer. Instead he takes the bow and moves it across the remaining strings, softly, reverently. No sound comes out, just motion, like the ghost of a song that only he can still hear. Then he says, "When I first board Titanic, I think, this is like New Cathedral, all steel and glass and holy men in tuxedos." You smirk at that, but he doesn't. He's serious. I see men with gloves, gold watches, hair like carved soap. They have cabins bigger than my home, food piled on tables, fresh meat. He leans forward slightly, lowering his voice, but they look sick, some of them, sad, like they are too full of world. You glance around. Down here, the people look tired, hungry sometimes, but never hollow. He nods toward a group of kids playing with a tin cup and some string. One shouts something in Italian. The others laugh like they understand. Here, he says, people still dreaming. Then the music starts again. Real music this time. Someone's brought out another fiddle, less broken than his. A few fast chords and the energy in the corridor shifts. A reel takes shape, boots scuff floors, someone starts clapping. The children abandon their cup string invention and begin spinning in a circle, arms flung out like petals in the wind. You and the violin man watch in silence. He never plays a note. That night, dinner is something pretending to be stew. You eat it with the same tin spoon you've been carrying in your pocket all day. The benches are loud. Voices tumble over each other in 5 languages. One man insists they'll see whales tomorrow. Someone else bets a week's wages the Americans will make them all drink vinegar. You're not sure if that's a joke. Then between sips, a woman across from you, older, veined hands, eyes that have definitely buried people, leans in and says, "They're keeping us in, you know." The conversation dips instantly. Everyone hears her, but no one responds. She doesn't need encouragement. I saw it. Metal doors. Shut halfway down F deck. My cousin works the kitchens. He says the scullery crew was told to stay below. Someone laughs nervously. Says she's been reading too many penny novels. But another man chimes in. "They won't let me past boiler room 4 anymore. Said it's a maintenance issue." He shrugs. "But it never was before." Now they're all murmuring. Just low enough not to attract attention, but loud enough to grow. You say nothing. You think of the voices behind the door. Boiler 6. Bulkhead. Don't say anything yet. The stew turns sour in your mouth. You wander again later, not aimlessly, just unwilling to lie still while the walls press closer. The air feels denser. Every step vibrates slightly beneath your soles, like the ship is exhaling wrong. In one of the crew corridors, you spot something that makes your stomach flip. A bundle of life jackets stacked on a cart, not being passed out, just sitting there, unlabelled, unspoken, like props waiting for a performance no one wants to see. A steward passes by. You ask, casually, what they're for. "Routine," he says too quickly. "Standard check." You blink at him. "We never had them out before." He doesn't answer, just moves on. And now you notice it. The crew is everywhere. Not rushing exactly, but moving fast, with purpose, like a party being cleaned up before the guests are told it's over. One steward whispers sharply to another. Not until the captain says, "They're steerage, for God's sake." They don't see you, or they do and don't care anymore. Back in the bunk area, someone's crying softly behind a curtain. 2 men are packing their bags again, slowly, as if for practice. You sit on your bunk and take out the letter you started earlier. You read it, you tear it in half. There's no address. There may never be one. You lie back and listen. The engine hum is still there, but it stutters every now and then, just briefly, like something grinding or catching in the dark. Above you, the ceiling drips. Below you, a child whispers, "Mama, are we sinking?" And from the other side of the wall, a voice answers, not a mother, not soft. A man with just enough certainty to scare you. Not yet. There's a moment just after sundown where the sky fades from pewter to velvet and the ocean stops pretending to be anything but endless. You're back on the third-class deck, allowed topside again for the evening air. The cold's sharper now, the kind that bites, but it's cleaner than anything down below. It smells like salt, wind and danger you haven't named yet. The sea is unnaturally calm, so calm in fact that it unnerves you. The Titanic slices through it like a cathedral across glass. No rocking, no foam, just smooth, infinite glide. A man next to you mutters in French, crossing himself. You don't ask why. You're starting to understand that superstition has better instincts than science sometimes. Nearby, someone hums a lullaby. A woman with frayed sleeves, and a child bundled in a shawl. The baby sleeps despite the wind, face pressed into her neck, small fingers curled in the woman's hair. The melody drifts across the deck, like a lantern set adrift on still water. You lean over the railing. Below you, black water. Above, stars. So many it hurts your eyes to count them. You realise with a quiet kind of shock that you've never seen this many before. No city lights, no clouds, just stars and more stars, and the Milky Way yawning like a mouthful of pearls. You hear someone say, "Looks like we're flying," and for a second it really does. Back below, you return to your bunk, but you can't rest. Too much quiet, too much unfinished movement. You pace the corridor instead. Others are restless too. The mood has shifted again. Subtly, but undeniably. There's more pacing, more whispering, more eyes darting toward doorways where stewards keep appearing only to vanish again. Always in pairs, always fast. You get the sense they've stopped pretending everything is fine. Now they're pretending nothing is happening. You pass a boy crouched in a corner. He's trying to carve something into a wooden slat with a spoon handle. You can't see what it is. A girl, maybe 10, approaches and whispers, "My uncle says someone's hurt down in the engines, that they've got bleeding crew locked in boiler room 6. Your mouth goes dry. You ask, "Why would they lock it?" She shrugs. "He says water's rising, not a lot, but enough." You crouch beside her. "Did he see it?" Another shrug. Then, "He used to work ships. He knows the sound of panic." You find Ino again, the man with the broken violin. He's sitting quietly in a side hall, smoking a twist of paper that smells vaguely like tea leaves and regret. He nods once when he sees you. "You're still here," he says, exhaling toward the ceiling. "Where would I go?" "Up," he replies. "Or down?" Is that a metaphor or an actual suggestion? He chuckles softly. Then he tells you he spoke to a fireman, one of the stokers who feed the ship's heart. He says they're pumping water. Quietly. Orders from above, no talk, just buckets. Just keep the steam going. He said it like saying a prayer. Fast, tired, eyes not blinking. You ask what it means. Ino shrugs. Maybe nothing. Maybe it means tomorrow comes slower than we thought. Later you pass by the lavatories and see something that stops you. A steward, not one you know. He's scrubbing the tile. Hard. Furiously, really. Not with the usual lazy circular motions of someone paid to make things appear clean, but with energy, desperation. And behind him, on the wall, a new poster. Disinfection schedule extended. All passengers must comply with updated wash times. You look closer. The times are longer, more frequent. The wording sharper. Less about cleanliness, more about control. You step away, pretending not to notice, when another steward wheels a cart of linen past and quietly drops 2 life jackets behind a curtain. At dinner, if you can call it that, you sit next to a young man from County Mayo who used to be a baker. He tells you he doesn't trust the stillness of the ship. Ships are supposed to creak, he says, mouthful of cabbage. You want to hear the wood complain. Steel doesn't groan the same way. Steel lies to you. You ask what he means. Wood lets you know when it's breaking. He says it like an old proverb, then wipes his mouth and mutters something about his sister being up in 2nd class. They wouldn't let me visit, said the stair was closed for ventilation checks. You look around. More eyes are darting. More food is left unfinished. The crew is no longer smiling. Just before lights out, there's a clatter up the corridor. A child yells, not in fear, just wild joy. You rush toward the noise and find half a dozen kids racing in circles, chasing after what looks like a piece of luggage on wheels. Behind them, a red-faced steward is shouting, trying to regain control. But behind him, something else. A door ajar, just slightly. Inside, only for a second, you catch a glimpse of boots soaked in water. Not damp, not splashed, soaked. The door slams shut. You're not supposed to see that. That night, you lay in your bunk but don't sleep. Others don't either. The air is thick with pretending. No alarms, no orders. Just that stutter in the ship's step. That hesitation in the crew's eyes. Somewhere below you, water is licking its way through steel and fire. And still, above you, the stars burn, merciless and beautiful. You wonder if anyone up in 1st class is staring at them tonight too. You wonder if they're hearing the same things, or if silence sounds different in a better room. The following morning greets you with the gentle cruelty of metal on flesh, someone's elbow in your side, a bunkmate shifting in their sleep, and the clatter of a tin bowl hitting the floor 3 bunks over. You're not sure if you slept or just closed your eyes and practiced pretending. There's a rattle in the air today, not from the engines, not from the usual clamour of footsteps and stew spoons. It's inside the people. The way voices dip quieter, the way glances linger just a bit too long, the way every steward who passes has the same expression, tight around the mouth, like they've bitten into something sour and are trying not to spit it out. The morning meal is late. You wait in line longer than usual, then longer than that. When it finally arrives, it's thinner too, yesterday's bread again, but with a little more resignation. The tea tastes like it's steeped in nervous sweat. It warms your throat anyway. You sit near a woman named Elżbieta. She's from Krakow. Her English is clipped and slow, but her hands tell whole novels. She carries herself like she's survived something larger than the ocean. I came from Milwaukee, she says, stirring her soup without tasting it. My husband waits there. He has coat factory. She smiles, but the smile doesn't last. If I die here, no one tell him. Let him think I got lost in Chicago. It's more believable. You want to argue. You don't. You just nod. You've learned that's sometimes enough. Across from you a boy and girl, siblings maybe, or just travelling together, quietly trade pieces of stale biscuit. The girl is humming. The boy watches the floor, like it might whisper the future. Someone tries to make a joke about American bread being worse than this. The laugh doesn't catch. Later, you return to your spot near the corridor stairwell. It's become a habit now, this pacing, this listening. There's power in being somewhere you're not supposed to be. Even if all you're doing is breathing and keeping your ears open, you catch 2 crewmen arguing quietly behind a service door left ajar. She'll stay afloat if the 5th holds. It has to. And if it doesn't, then bulkhead 7 takes it. And then it's the boilers. Then silence. Then footsteps. The door clicks shut again. You retreat before they catch you listening, heart racing not from fear but from understanding. Not complete, but enough to know that something structural is wrong. Enough to know the ship is holding its breath. So are you. Lunch is less formal today. No one's setting tables. The food is handed out from a bucket in the corridor. You sit on the floor with it. A stew that tastes like boiled cardboard and carrots that were probably already old when they were picked. Someone passes a tin flask down the line. It burns on your tongue. You don't ask what's in it. You just nod your thanks and let the warmth settle low in your chest. That's when you hear her voice. She's listing, just a hair. You turn. An older woman, French-Canadian, is standing with her eyes shut, rocking slightly, swaying, her hand pressed against the steel of the wall. You feel it? She says. She's lower, just enough. You close your eyes. She's right. The tilt is microscopic, but undeniable. Your balance shifts. You lean harder on one heel. The spoon in your hand tilts left without asking your permission. There are murmurs now. Quiet ones. Not panic, but the ghost of panic. Conversations cut short when stewards pass, eyes tracking every uniform like they're carrying answers no one is willing to share. One man says he saw officers taking measurements at the starboard railing. Another says the engine room's locked down tighter than before. Another says he heard banging under his bunk last night. Not pipes, something else. Rhythmic. Everyone has a theory, no one has proof. And still the ship sails on. Still the water is calm. That evening you're sitting beside the same girl from earlier, the one who danced in the corridor. She's holding a folded piece of paper. It's a ticket, but not her ticket. She says she found it under a bunk 2 rooms over. Same class, different name. I think they got off in Queenstown, she says. Didn't tell anyone, just disappeared. You ask if she's sure, she shrugs. Or maybe they just hid. Then she asks something that makes your skin tighten. If the boat started to sink, would they tell us first or last? You want to laugh, to say it wouldn't sink, couldn't sink, you don't. Instead, you change the subject. But not before she says, my uncle worked on the Olympic. Ships can sink. They always said they couldn't. Later, you try to sleep again. Your body obeys, but your mind stays awake, curled around every word you've overheard in the last 24 hours. You think about the pocket watch Ino showed you, the one that stopped the day he left home. You wonder what time yours would stop if you had one. You think about the 5th bulkhead, the 6th, the boilers. You hear something shift in the walls, and then deeper in the ship, somewhere too far down to reach. A dull, muffled boom, soft enough that no one screams, but loud enough to know that wasn't the ocean, that wasn't the engine, that was something giving way. And no one has come to tell you. You can't stay in your bunk, not after that sound, not after that low, drawn-out groan that felt like it came from the bones of the ship itself. Not the walls, but the soul. You lie still only long enough to know you can't lie still. Then you're up, stepping over sleeping legs and half-folded coats, avoiding the baby still curled in its mother's shawl. She stirs as you pass, opens one eye, doesn't speak. She felt it too. You head downward, not upward, because the sound came from below, and because curiosity is a disease that spreads faster than any disinfection schedule on this ship. The lower you go, the hotter it gets. The steel sweats again, like it did that first morning, only thicker now. The corridor becomes narrower, the lighting yellower, the smells darker, oil, rust, something like boiled gloves. You pass a row of crates, a mop leaning in a bucket of water that hasn't been changed in days, and then a door, not locked. You push it open slowly, as if the air behind it might bite. Inside, the roar. It hits you like a wall of breath, heat, coal dust, metal clangs echo like gunshots inside a tin drum. Men move in silhouette, shoveling coal into mouths of flame. No uniforms here, only sweat, grime, and eyes that burn brighter than the fire. You've wandered into the edge of the engine rooms, not inside. There are walls between you and the Titanic's heart. But this is the gut, the muscle that feeds it. And there, right by the nearest furnace door, is a man leaning against a pipe. His shirt is soaked through, one sleeve is torn, and tied around his upper arm like a bandage. He sees you, doesn't wave, doesn't shout, just nods, like he's been expecting you. You move closer. He doesn't stop you. The bulkhead's bowing. He says without introduction, "Starboard side, I seen it." You blink, not quite sure how to reply. "They're keeping it quiet," he adds. "But it's pushing inward, just a little, just enough to make us sweat harder." He doesn't look angry, doesn't look scared, just tired. "We've been told to stay, keep shoveling, keep the lights on, that's all. Doesn't matter what's coming, just keep her lit." He glances at the fire behind him. "You ever worked the pits before?" You shake your head. "Good, don't start." Then he spits into a corner and goes back to shoveling. You leave, not because you're done, but because you've seen enough. The air is too thick, the noise too large, and you're not ready for what might happen if another bulkhead gives way. On your way back up, you notice the floor tilts just a fraction, more than it did this morning. You cling to the rail without thinking. The wall leans where it shouldn't lean. Above, in the stairwell, a steward catches you. "You're not supposed to be down here," he barks, and this time he means it. Not in the usual scolding way. Not, "You don't belong here." This is, "You shouldn't have seen that." You say nothing. He doesn't bother writing your name down, just sends you back with a sharp hand motion and a warning glance that says, "Talk and you won't make it to breakfast." You go. But your legs are trembling in ways you don't want to explain. By now, steerage is humming like a disturbed beehive. People are pretending to play cards, pretending to talk about their destinations. But the words are hollow, the smiles brittle. Everyone knows. No one says. Except for a man sitting near the back wall, hunched over a journal. He's sketching furiously. The layout of the lower ship, it looks like. Arrows, numbers. You ask what he's drawing. He doesn't look up. "They're sealing off sections," he says, like a lung collapsing one breath at a time. You want to argue, to doubt. He finally looks at you. "They didn't make this ship to sink slow," he says. "They made it to sink quiet." You back away before he can say anything else. Later that night, or is it already early morning, you hear the clatter, a pair of boots running. Another steward. You follow. This time he doesn't see you. He joins a knot of officers by the stairwell. 3 men in uniform, one without a hat, his hair sticking up like it's just been torn out by his own hand. The officers speak in urgent tones. Passengers are asking questions. "Start the drills, quietly. Tell steerage they're going to be checked for lice again. And if they refuse, then lock the gates, temporarily. Say it's for containment." You step back into the shadows. That word again. Containment. Like you're a problem, a spill, a leak, not a life. You slip back to your bunk around 3 a.m. Or something that feels like it. Time doesn't move right here anymore. It stretches, bends, folds in on itself. A soft rumble starts again. Not loud, just present. You know it's water. You know. People are stirring. Not all, but more than before. Someone near you whispers, "Should we go up?" But no one answers. You lie down, eyes open, staring at the bunk above you, like it might fall. You think about the violin, the boots, the leaning wall. You think about the stoker's voice, calm and slow and sweat-soaked. Just keep her lit. You think about what happens when the light goes out. Sometime before dawn, if it's even possible to call time by names anymore. You feel the shift again. This time, it isn't subtle, not a murmur or a tremor. This is a full-body lean, like the ship has made up its mind to bow slightly, imperceptibly, toward the sea. And still, no bell rings, no steward knocks, no orders, only the soft shuffle of bodies waking in confusion. You rise with them. No words, just movement, like animals sensing a storm before the first crack of thunder. In the corridor, the air is different. It smells less like damp steel and more like something strained, like a boiler pushed too far, like cold metal sweating out secrets. You find yourself near a group gathered around the corridor's end, whispering in sharp bursts. One man, shirt half buttoned and hair wild from sleep, says he saw crew carrying ropes. Another says she spotted lifebelts stacked behind a curtain. Why lifebelts at 4 a.m? No one answers. You try the stairs. Blocked. A steward stands at the top step, arms crossed, not angry, but firm. Please return to your cabin. We're conducting routine ventilation procedures. You raise an eyebrow, so do others. Someone behind you asks, "Are we sinking?" The steward doesn't flinch, just repeats, "Return to your cabin." But now the question is out there, floating, infectious. You don't return to your bunk. Instead, you find a corner, near the storage crates that always smell faintly of apples and mildew, and sit, watching, listening. Across the corridor, an older man takes out a pair of shoes and begins polishing them, as if the day were normal. As if polished shoes could protect him from the Atlantic. He catches your eye and smiles. "Church shoes," he says, "can't drown in dirty boots." By the time the noise starts, everyone's already halfway alert. It begins with footsteps, many of them, followed by shouts from somewhere above. Not panicked, but fast. Then comes the scrape of something heavy, metallic. Chains, maybe. Doors. A lock slides shut behind you, and suddenly the corridor feels smaller. A few people begin moving toward the stairwells again, asking questions more loudly this time. No answers. Then, one voice, from the back, soft, steady. "It's flooding." Silence. No one asks where he heard it. They just hear it, like a fact, like gravity. People begin moving now, not frantic but urgent. Some gather bags, others grab coats. A woman clutches a doll that clearly isn't hers. Another presses a photo to her lips. Still, no alarms, just walls that lean slightly more than before. You and a handful of others edge toward a side passage. It's not meant for passengers, but it's not locked. You follow it, turning corner after corner until the sound changes. Less echo, more thrum. You're near the engine rooms again, but what you find isn't noise, it's stillness. The engines have stopped. No one says it. But everyone knows, no vibration, no pulsing floor, no hum beneath your feet. It's like walking inside a corpse. One man, dressed like a kitchen worker, leans against a bulkhead, shaking. "If the engines are off, the pumps are too," he says. "They'll shut them down if the water's too high. No point wasting steam if it's already lost." Another voice. "Lost?" he nods. "Boiler room 5 is gone. Water came fast. They didn't warn the crew. Just slammed the doors." You whisper. "The watertight ones?" He nods again. Not all of them closed in time. There it is, the real silence, not absence of sound, the presence of truth. Eventually you find yourself herded, not led, not guided, but nudged by crowd movement, back toward the bunks. The corridor narrows with bodies, faces taut, eyes wide. Someone clutches a rolled mattress like a raft. 2 stewards arrive. Their faces are pale. One climbs a step and addresses the group. "We need everyone to remain calm. We are experiencing minor mechanical issues and are taking necessary precautions. You will be informed shortly about next steps." Someone shouts, "Are we sinking?" He repeats himself word for word. Minor mechanical issues, necessary precautions. It sounds practiced, too practiced. You duck into a side passage again, unable to just stand still. And that's when you see it. At the far end of the hall, barely illuminated by flickering gaslight, a door creaks open, slowly, like it's ashamed of what's behind it. Water, not a rush, not a wave, but a steady sheet, moving like oil across the floor. Quiet, heavy, cold. It curves into the hall like a finger curling inward. And then a hand appears. Someone slipping, gasping, dragging themselves toward the door. You run forward, grabbing their coat. They're soaked, trembling. They whisper, "We weren't locked out, we were locked in." Then collapse. You don't know how long you sit there beside them. But when the others arrive, faces tight, expressions unreadable, they don't ask questions. They just take the person, carry them out, and say, "It's under control." You don't believe them. You don't think they believe them. Back in your corridor, the air is buzzing now. A child cries. Someone is shouting again about the stairs being closed, the locked gates, the blocked exits. Someone asks, "Why are the doors sealed if it's just a drill?" No one has answers. Not anymore. There's a new word whispered now. Not ventilation, not containment, not drill. It's lifeboats. You don't know where they are, but you do know you've never even seen one. Now the pacing turns to shuffling. The whispers swell into talk, not scream. Not yet, but you feel them coming. They are heavy in the lungs, hanging behind every sentence, every glance. You hear the words repeated like a prayer stuck in the throat. Lifeboats. Up top. They won't let us through. You're standing near the stairwell again. Always the stairwell. It's the place where hope waits for permission. And the permission's not coming. A young man from Sweden shouts, "Let us up!" His voice cracks. He clutches a girl, maybe a sister, maybe not, with both arms. Her face is blotched red from crying. One of the stewards blocks the steps again, with a forced calmness that makes your hands curl into fists. Stay back. Officers will give instructions soon. You take a step forward. The ship's listing. He doesn't reply. Instead he eyes the keys at his belt, then mutters into the wall, "I just do what I'm told." The ship groans again. Not a bump, not a jolt. It moans. Low, slow, as if something enormous is bending, maybe surrendering. A sound that isn't quite metal and isn't quite the sea. It makes your bones itch, and that's when someone panics. A woman breaks away from the crowd and runs forward, pushing past a boy. She screams, "Let me up! I have a baby!" The steward holds her back with a practiced firmness that looks too much like muscle. The baby wails, adding another layer of hysteria to the air. People are pressing forward now. Questions fly. No answers return. You don't push, not yet. But you edge closer to the metal gate. It's locked? Of course it is. A few bunks away, a man sits silently, wrapping his feet in cloth. No shoes, just rags. He doesn't speak, but his eyes follow the ceiling like he can see through it. When you glance at him, he says, "You ever hear of the Empress of Ireland?" You nod. You haven't? Doesn't matter. It went down in 14 minutes. He finishes wrapping his feet and stands. I don't think this one wants to rush it. This ship wants to drag us down slow. Later a child hands you a biscuit, just offers it, palm up, no words. You take it without thinking. It's hard enough to chip a tooth on. You chew anyway. Down the hall more people are packing, quietly, bags zipped, blankets rolled. A few are whispering prayers, but they don't use the name of any god you recognise. One man has strapped pans to his chest with twine. Another wears 2 life vests, stacked like layered cakes. You haven't been given one. No one in this corridor has. Around the next bend, a steward is crouched, keys in hand. Alone. He's unlocking a gate. You catch him just in time. Can we go up? He jumps, startled, then says in a whisper, This gate leads to E deck, still blocked beyond. Where are the boats? Top decks, but your steerage. There's protocol. You step closer. Are they loading them? He hesitates, then nods. Some have already launched. You feel something in your stomach pull tight. There's not enough for everyone, he adds, and you don't know if he meant to say that out loud. He finishes unlocking the gate, pauses, looks you in the eye. If you want a chance, go now, before someone notices. You don't thank him. There's no time for gratitude. You just move. E-deck is chaos. More people. More shouting. Someone's bleeding from the forehead. Walking in a daze. A girl's dress is torn at the shoulder. A man pounds on a locked door until his fists go raw. The crew is divided. Half are helping, half are guarding. You don't know which to trust then. You spot it. A ladder. No signs. No guards. Just steel steps leading upward, tucked behind a half-open crate. You climb. The ladder is slick. Your boots slip twice. Someone below you says, wait for me. But you don't stop. You can't. Up 2 decks, then another corridor. And then, somehow, miraculously, you reach it. Open air. The night sky slaps you in the face like a confession. Cold wind, smoke, and stars brighter than ever, like they've gathered to watch. And up ahead, lifeboats. Rows of them, half lowered, ropes taut, men shouting orders. Women and children only. Back away, back, sir, I said back. You inch forward. The deck is angled now, barely, but enough to make everyone walk crooked. One boat's already swinging out over the water, only half filled. You blink. Why only half? There's room, someone yells. Why are they lowering it, now? A sailor turns and barks. Orders, weight balance, move back. You see a first-class woman in a satin gown, clutching a Pomeranian. The dog is silent. Its eyes are open wide. Near the rail, a man tries to kiss his wife's hand, and she slaps him. You edge closer to the next boat, but someone stops you. Where's your pass? You stare. What pass? You're not on the boat list. Are you steerage? You don't answer. Doesn't matter. You're already being pushed back. And now, voices rise. One woman screams, My child is down there. They wouldn't let her through. Let me back. A man throws a chair. Someone's yelling in French. The crowd is swelling now. No more order. No more grace. Then a shot. Just one. Upward. A warning. Silence falls. The sailor with the gun looks shaken, like he never meant to be holding one. Back, he says, almost pleading. We're doing what we can. But you can feel it. The line has broken. There's no doing left, only surviving. You step back, blend into the crowd again. Somewhere, a man starts sobbing. Somewhere else, a woman begins singing a hymn. You look to the stars. They have no answers. Not for you? You don't remember deciding to run. One moment you're watching the boat lower with too few people aboard. The next your feet are carrying you along the sloped deck, away from the officers, away from the shouting, back toward any opening you might fit through. The cold bites harder now. You can't tell if the trembling in your legs is from panic or the sea air, or something older, buried deeper. The angle of the ship has changed again. Not a little, not imagined. Now it's unmistakable. You have to lean to keep your balance. Some are crawling. Others sit down mid-step, crying, frozen, not by cold, but choice paralysis. In front of you, a young man stumbles to his knees and doesn't get back up. He just stays there, mouth moving like he's praying or cursing or both. You sidestep him, and the guilt hits a beat later, but it doesn't slow you. You find a stairwell, unguarded, wide enough for 2 people, though now it's jammed with 7. Someone pushes, a woman shouts, a man tries to lift a child above the others, but his footing slips and the child slides down a few steps, before being caught by a stranger. This is no longer evacuation. This is exodus. And down below, somewhere beneath you, water is claiming its inheritance. You duck through a hallway, first class, or maybe second. It's hard to tell in the dark. The carpet squishes now, not from water yet, but from the weight of footsteps. Boots soak through, heavy with decisions no one wanted to make. A table has been knocked over. A phonograph lies smashed beside a toppled vase, and you don't stop to mourn the music. Then you see it. A life belt, lying discarded in a corner, like someone thought better of wearing it. You grab it, fasten it around your chest. The straps are stiff. Your fingers don't want to obey. Across from you, an elderly man sits in a velvet chair, dressed in evening wear, holding a glass of brandy that barely sloshes. "You'll want to head up," he says, voice calm, "though I hear it's full." You blink. "Aren't you coming?" He smiles. "I've had a good run. Besides, this chair is warmer than the Atlantic." You stand there for a moment too long. Then you move on. Because what else do you do when death offers you small talk? Back out on deck, the wind cuts deeper. The ship groans again, longer this time. A sound like metal remembering it's not invincible. You grab a railing to keep upright. Somewhere someone screams. You can't tell from where. It seems to come from inside the ship. A deep wail that travels through the decks like a ghost fleeing up a staircase. Another boat is lowering now, even less full than the last. They're barely half occupied. People are fighting to board, but not everyone. Not the ones from steerage. They're still locked behind gates. You see one. Still chained, still sealed, you move toward it. Inside, a dozen people, maybe more, all pressed to the bars. Some yelling, others silent. A few praying in a language you don't understand. A child punches the gate with both fists, not because he thinks it will open, but because it's the only thing his small body can do. You look around for a key. Nothing. Not on this deck. You pull at the lock, uselessly. A woman inside meets your eyes and smiles gently, and mouths, "It's all right." It's not. But you say nothing, because what words are left? The tilt increases. Not by much, but now you see it in how people walk, one leg higher than the other, some crawling, some just sitting and waiting. The lights begin to flicker, only once, but once is enough. A man near you mutters, "When the lights go, it's over." You want to argue, you don't. You just keep moving. And then amid the chaos, the shouting, the keening wind, you hear it. Music. Real salty live music. Soft at first, struggling against the wind, you follow it. Not because it makes sense, but because nothing else does anymore. On the open deck, just past the staircase, you find them. A small ensemble. 4 men, a violin, a cello, a piano barely still upright, and a bass propped against a crate. They play not for an audience, but for the air, for the stars, for the ones who need to pretend this is still a ship, not a tomb. The tune, you recognise it. Nearer, my God, to thee. Someone once said that's not what they played. Historians debate it. Others claim it was a ragtime piece, upbeat, meant to calm the nerves. There's no proof either way, but in this moment, it's a hymn. And you're not the only one who stopped to listen. Even the chaos pauses. A few passengers stand still. A steward bows his head. Someone drops a suitcase, untouched. For the length of one verse, the ship becomes a cathedral. Not a liner, not a luxury marvel. A place of worship, reverent and terrible. Then the bass cuts out, then the piano. Just the violin now. One final note, and silence. You feel the shift again. Not a tilt, a lurch. The ship groans, not gently, angrily, as if something inside it has given up pretending. People scream, the hymn breaks. A crewman shouts, "She's breaking!" You turn toward the bow and see it dip. The front of the ship is lower than it was a minute ago. Then A crack, distant, deep, hollow, like a spine. The deck splits in sound, not yet in steel. You grab a rail. Now there's no order, no protocol. Now it's everyone. You hear the gates breaking, people pouring up from below, crying, running. The poor, the locked out, the ones who waited too long. And the boats. The last one is being lowered. Without you. Without hundreds of others. You step back. The rail is behind you. The sea is below you. And the stars, they just keep watching. You can't feel your feet anymore. Not from cold, though the cold has made its home in your marrow, but from the pressure of stillness, of waiting on the slope of a ship, no longer pretending to be steady, of knowing that you are standing on what might be the highest point you will ever reach again, and still, it's not high enough. The rail behind you is slick with condensation. Salt clings to your lips. The air is sharper now, like it's been honed to a blade. You breathe in through your nose and taste metal, smoke, and something ancient that lives in the deep. Chaos moves past you in waves. Some are climbing, desperate, clawing their way toward lifeboats that are no longer there. Others cling to each other, rooted by fear or faith. One man ties himself to a pipe with his belt and starts muttering the Lord's Prayer in 3 languages, like he's casting a net over his soul, just in case one translation works better than the others. You spot Ino again. He's not shouting, not panicking, just standing on the deck, staring out over the railing like he's waiting for the ocean to say something. You go to him. He smiles faintly when he sees you. "You're still here," he says, as if surprised. "So are you." He holds up the broken violin. It's still tucked under his arm. "Not much of an anchor," he mutters, "but I couldn't leave her behind." Then, "She was a gift from my brother." You look around. "Where is he?" Aino doesn't answer. He just tightens his grip on the violin. Somewhere toward the bow, a scream cuts through the wind. People rush toward the noise, not to help, but to run from it. You catch a glimpse. The deck is cracking now, slowly, angrily. A web of fractures spidering across metal, not enough to split, but enough to make everyone believe it will. An officer runs past shouting, "Aft! Move to the aft decks!" No one argues. Now hundreds surge backward, stumbling, tripping. A woman slips on ice and doesn't get up. A man lifts her, but there's no time to thank him. The slope steepens. People aren't walking anymore. They're crawling. You make it toward the stern, not by luck, not by direction, just momentum. The crowd carries you like a tide. You lose Ino. You call out once, but your voice is lost in the churn. There are bodies lying on the deck. Some alive, some not. You step over one and hate yourself for it. The lights flicker again, then dark, total, suffocating dark. The ship exhales one last time. The breath dies and the sea answers. A sound like no other, the groan of surrender. Not a scream, not a roar, just collapse. The front of the ship plunges, slow at first, then with terrifying conviction. You grab for the railing. So do dozens of others. There is no order anymore, no language, only sound, raw, human, animal. People leap, others fall, some are pushed. You hold fast because you're not ready. Because maybe the stern will stay above water. Because the stories say she can't sink. Because hope is a liar. Then it tilts. The whole stern lifts like a drawbridge. Not slowly now. The water roars past the edge of the ship. You're clinging to metal that's becoming a wall. The man next to you slips and vanishes without a sound. Your grip burns. You lose a shoe. And now you see them. The ocean, rising up to meet you. The stars, fixed and uncaring. The moon, a sickle. You think of your family. You think of home. You think of all the things you didn't do. The things you meant to say. The spoon you carried. The stew you hated. The little boy who tried to smile through biscuit crumbs. You think of the violin. Then the ship snaps. Not all at once. Not like the stories say. You hear it, feel it, a thunderous crack from the belly. A pause, then a second. The sound of steel surrendering. The stern shudders beneath you. And then it begins to fall. Not tip. Fall. You fall with it. The water is not cold, it is cruel. It swallows you like a secret. It rushes into your mouth, your eyes, your ears. It is louder than thunder, harder than glass. You are not swimming. You are tumbling, tossed like a toy in God's pocket. You hit something, wood, metal, another person, and then you're under again. You fight, you claw, you break the surface, gasping, screaming, surrounded by others doing the same. And then the quiet. The ship is gone. All of it. Only darkness now, only stars, only breath. Only the cold creeping into your bones with a surgeon's patience. You kick, you float, you cling to a piece of wood, maybe a crate lid, maybe a bench. You don't care. You're alive, but you are not safe. The sea does not care about survivors. All around you, voices, calling names, crying, some shouting prayers, some just whispering, please, please. You hear one man sing, then stop. You hear a woman counting numbers, then nothing. One by one, the voices thin, until the sea is mostly silence and the stars remain unchanged. Time unravels in the water. Minutes lose their shape. Seconds stretch like breath held too long. You're not sure how long you've been floating. 5 minutes? An hour? A lifetime that smells like brine and grief? Your fingers are numb. Your legs too. You haven't felt your toes since the ship's stern vanished into the Atlantic, like a magician's final trick. The piece of debris you're clinging to is narrow, probably part of a crate. It creaks beneath you. You shift carefully. Any wrong movement might send you under. There's no second try out here. Around you, fragments, boards, coats, a woman's glove, a man's shoe with no foot in it. You don't look too closely. You don't call out. Calling takes energy. Instead, you listen. Somewhere in the darkness, someone is singing again. It's a lullaby, slow, mournful, in Italian. You don't recognise the words, but you understand them perfectly. You try to focus on anything but your body. You think of the third-class bunk, the wool blanket that scratched, how you would give anything to feel it again, to lie in that sweaty, clanging room with snoring strangers and taste another ladle of watery stew. You think of Aino and his violin. You wonder if he made it off, if he's floating somewhere nearby, if the violin did him any good. You think of the stars. They're still impossibly bright. You stare up and wonder if people in London are looking at the same ones right now, or New York or Milwaukee. You try to name the constellations. You can't. Your brain is slowing down. Thinking is like swimming. A voice beside you groans, then a splash. You don't look. Then a sound, not human, not water. Oars. The slow rhythmic creak of wood moving against metal. Distant. A voice calls, "Is anyone alive out there?" You lift your head. You try to answer. No sound comes out. Your throat burns. You slap the wood. Once, twice. You try again. "Here!" It comes out hoarse, like gravel being pushed through cloth. But someone hears it. The oars stop, then resume, closer now. Another voice joins. "Keep calling out." Others begin to shout too, scattered, faint. The boat is near, but it can't see you. You scream again. This time it hurts, but it's loud. A light, a flickering oil lantern dangling from a rope, swinging like a clock pendulum over the edge of a lifeboat. You see faces leaning over, then arms reaching. "Hold on!" They grab your shoulders. Your numb hands won't help. You want to pull yourself in, but your limbs refuse. You're dead weight now. Dead, except for the part that refuses. They lift you. It takes 2 people. you land inside the boat like a sack of grain, shivering so violently your teeth clack like spoons in a drawer. They cover you with a blanket that might as well be made of paper. You don't cry, not because you're brave, because there's nothing left in you to squeeze out. Around you, others, maybe a dozen, huddled, silent, eyes vacant, some wrapped in coats too small. One woman is whispering a prayer to no one. A child lies still on his mother's lap. No one's talking. Not about the ship. Not about what they saw. No one asks who made it. No one counts. No one dares. After a long while, someone says, "I thought she couldn't sink." No one replies. You hear debate up front. Two men talking, whispers sharp with guilt and indecision. "We've passed too many. If we go back, we overload. They'll swamp us." But they're still out there. The lantern swings, casting light on too many faces. Some are watching the water. Some are watching the men. A few close their eyes, not to sleep, just to stop seeing. You stare down at the floor of the boat. It's littered with ice. No one brushes it away. An hour later, maybe more, you spot another boat. They tie up together side by side. Some passengers are transferred. The groan of oars gives way to the creak of ropes and the low mumble of exhaustion. One of the sailors says, "They're launching rockets from the Carpathia." Another replies, "Then we wait, so you wait." Dawn arrives not like a sunrise, but like a bruise changing colour. The black gives way to grey, then to violet, and then to the faintest wash of gold. You don't even notice at first. It happens slowly, so slowly, until suddenly the sea is visible again, and you realise the Atlantic is not empty, not even close. Wood. Bodies, furniture, hats, blankets. One lifeboat so full it rides low in the water. You hear someone sob when they see it, not from grief, from recognition. And then the Carpathia, a shape on the horizon, a column of smoke, more oars, a cheer, not loud but real. You don't join in, you just close your eyes, not to sleep, just to rest your sight. You hear someone whisper, "We're saved." You don't answer. You're not sure what saved means anymore. You made it. But the Titanic didn't, and neither did everyone else. You press your forehead to the side of the boat. It's still cold, but it's real. You're still here. The deck of the Carpathia doesn't feel like rescue. Not at first. It's too solid beneath your feet, jarring after hours of shifting wood and freezing water. You step onto it like a foal learning to stand. Everything feels unreal, artificial, like a stage built for someone else's tragedy. The hiss of steam, the thud of boots, the smell of coal and disinfectant, so sharp it brings tears to your eyes. Someone hands you a wool blanket. Another offers a cup of something warm. You're not sure what it is. Tea, broth, brine. Doesn't matter. You sip and taste survival. Around you, faces. Blurred pale, hollowed out, like lanterns burned too long. A few are crying, most are not. They're in that in-between state where the body has survived, but the mind hasn't caught up. You sit on the deck, back against a wall, and feel the heat seep into your spine. And still, you shiver. You notice a woman holding an empty baby blanket. Not a baby, just a blanket cradled like a promise. Her face is dry, her gaze distant. A steward gently tries to take it from her. She doesn't let go. A nurse comes by with a notepad. She asks for your name, your age, where you boarded, who you were travelling with. You give answers in a voice you hardly recognise. Not because you're lying, because the truth is heavier now. Like the ship tried to take part of it with her. You mention I know. The nurse pauses. Did he make it aboard? You don't know. Your chest aches with not knowing. They put you in a cabin with 3 others, all third class, all survivors. No one talks for the first hour. One girl, maybe 16, just lies curled on the lower bunk, eyes open, not blinking. You recognise her. She was on your deck, always braiding and unbraiding her hair. Now, her hands lie limp at her side. Another woman, French, judging by her accent, murmurs to herself, counting names, over and over. When the silence finally breaks, it's with the voice of the last one, an older man who hasn't spoken since boarding. He says simply, "I had a ticket on the Olympic. I traded it for the Titanic. Thought it would be safer." No one says anything. There's nothing to say. Out on deck again, you see more lifeboats being hauled aboard, and you realise, for the first time, how few they are. The Titanic carried over 2,200 souls. You count 11 boats, then you stop counting. The captain of the Carpathia walks the deck, checking faces. He doesn't speak often, but when he does, it's with soft words and steady eyes. You hear one exchange with a steward who's barely holding himself together. "I didn't know who to help first," the steward stammers. "There were too many." The captain places a hand on his shoulder. "You helped someone, that's enough." You turn away. You're not sure if it's because you believe him or because you don't. Later, someone gives you clothes. Too big, too warm. You put them on anyway. The boots have dry socks stuffed in the toes. You almost cry from the comfort. In a mirror above the wash basin, you catch your reflection. You don't recognise yourself. The face staring back is sunken, lips cracked, hair stiff with salt. Your eyes look older than you remember. But they're yours. You're still here, somehow. You find a lifeboat rope coil on deck and sit beside it. A young steward approaches and says gently, "There's a service at dusk for the ones who didn't come aboard." You nod. You'll go, but you don't move yet. You watch the sea. The wreck is gone now, swallowed whole, and still the water looks calm, almost peaceful. It's the lie of the century. You think back to that first morning when the sea outside the third-class porthole looked like polished slate, how it held the ship like a mirror. You remember someone said, "It looks like we're flying." And now the ocean looks like a witness who will never testify. That evening the service is quiet. No sermon, just a reading. Some verses and silence. You stand shoulder to shoulder with strangers. Some hold hands, others stare down at the deck. Then without prompting, someone begins to sing. "Nearer, my God, to thee." It's not in tune, it's not in harmony, but it's real. You don't know the words past the first verse. Doesn't matter. You hum, others join. It rises into the sky like breath escaping a frozen mouth. Afterwards you return to your bunk. Someone's placed a small tin of biscuits on the table, probably meant to be comforting. Probably came from first-class stores. You don't eat one. You just stare at the tin. Then you lie down and close your eyes. Not to sleep, just to feel the weight of something under you that isn't moving. Something that doesn't tilt, doesn't groan. You wonder if you'll ever trust silence again. The Carpathia reaches New York at nightfall, 4 days after you floated in the black mouth of the Atlantic, waiting for death to blink first. You expect the lights of the harbour to feel triumphant, but they don't. They're too bright, too clean, like a story you're not ready to believe. The other survivors gather at the rail, staring at the skyline like it might answer for what happened. Some cry, some stare in silence. A woman to your left crosses herself. Another mutters something about angels. But you feel nothing yet. You're not empty, just delayed, like your soul is on another ship arriving sometime later. The Statue of Liberty appears like a ghost from the fog. You wonder how many on board feel free. The dock is chaos. Reporters shout questions. Cameras flash like little lightning bolts. People are shouting names, pushing forward with papers, waving photographs, grabbing hands. You step into it, and the noise hits you like heat. What happened on board? Did the captain survive? Were you in first class? Did you see the iceberg? You don't answer. You can't. You just keep moving, clutching a scrap of paper someone shoved into your hand, a form maybe, or your own name spelled wrong. It doesn't matter. You're not a passenger anymore. You're an artifact. Somewhere in the crowd, someone calls out, "Third class this way." You turn, half out of habit, and follow. You're led into a temporary shelter, warm and strange smelling. There are cots, food, woolen coats in a bin labelled "for the steerage." You try one on. It fits. There's a line to write your name on a ledger. You pause at the desk. "Name?" the woman asks. You give it. "Travelling alone?" You hesitate. "No," you whisper. "Who are you with?" You whisper a name. "Did they survive?" You look down. Then you lie. "Yes." The woman nods and moves on. In the corner of the shelter, someone's handing out telegram vouchers. One per survivor. You take one and stare at it for 10 minutes. What do you say? "I made it. Sorry. I'm alive, but not the same." You put it in your coat pocket and tell yourself you'll write it later. By evening, you find a bench outside. The air smells different here. Like horse sweat, coal, and too much promise. The city rumbles in a way the ocean never did. Clanging, moving, awake. You sit beside a woman humming softly. She doesn't notice you at first, then she turns. "Were you there?" You nod. She nods back. "That's it. That's all. It's enough." The newspapers arrive. Tragedy at sea. Unsinkable ship lost. Thousands dead. One headline reads, "Band played as Titanic sank." You wonder if that's what they'll remember. Not the gates, not the locked doors, not the steward who whispered, "Go now," but the band. It's prettier after all. Easier to hum than grief. Later, someone leads you to a train. You don't ask where it's going. Just sit down. Watch the city drift past the window like a dream someone else is having. Your reflection stares back. It's different now. Firmer around the eyes, weaker around the mouth. You close your eyes. You dream finally. You dream of steel, of salt, of boots too large and bunk beds too narrow. You dream of stew, violin strings and stars. Always the stars. You wake to silence and you're still here. The days pass, the world moves on. The stories shift. Some say the ship was cursed, some say it was human error, some blame the ice, others blame arrogance. You don't argue, you just keep walking. Eventually, you find work. A room, a window. Sometimes you look at the night sky and wait for it to tip. It never does, but part of you still braces anyway. Years later, someone asks what it was like. They say it quietly, respectfully, as if asking about a wound that never quite closed. You pause and say simply, "It was cold." They nod, thinking that's the whole truth. You let them believe it. The sea never gave back the whole ship, never gave back all the names. Some were swallowed whole, others were rewritten. But you're still here, and that's a story no one else can tell. The sky begins to fade from deep blue to black. The stars return, quiet, steady, unchanged. The sea has calmed again, as if nothing ever happened. You're warm now, safe beneath blankets that don't slide, on land that doesn't tilt. Your breathing slows. The story ends, but the memory lingers.